Hey everyone, this is Kirbiknight bringing you a deck profile from Divine Z Booster Set 1. Today we're going to be taking a look at Messiah. So, I guess starting off with the deck and kind of just how it is in the meta. I think Messiah is kind of a decent pick. I would say, I don't remember where I put it exactly in my tier list, but I do think that it is a fairly decent deck. If you want to pick up Messiah, it shouldn't be too bad. I think like the only expensive card is going to be like one card from set 1. But other than that, it's a pretty decent pick. Like if you learn how to pilot it and you can like, you know your plays, you know your combos, you can definitely compete with like even the best of the best at this point. You just, like I said, you do have to know how to play against the meta, but still, I think a pretty decent pick. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the deck profile. Okay, so going to be speeding through this one a little bit more than usual, just because this, I think, is the third Messiah deck profile that we have actually on the channel. So if you want any more information, go ahead and check out any of those videos. We've got, of course, you do have to start with your Neo Messiah, and then, of course, you do have to do a Sleep Messiah, because when you're riding to sleep over, waking over asleep, oh wait, no. This is Neon, this is Asleep. When you write Asleep over Neon, you get the Messiah Crest, which does allow you to actually stride, so you do need to play these ones. Currently, you don't actually need to play the grade 2, but we are probably going to be getting a ruling very soon that is going to be forcing you to play this, but you might as well play it anyway. You could try out product order build, but I don't really think that is that great. It's funny, but for now I think it's just fine playing the Waking Messiah. And then of course your top end is just going to be that Alter Ego Messiah. Of course Waking Messiah is just going to pop itself out whenever you stride, soul charge, and then when it's unlocked you do give 10k to the thing in front of it. And then of course your Alter Ego Messiah, you can play any copy of Alter Ego Messiah, they all have the same skill, but whenever a lock card is unlocked you pay the cost of Soul Blast 1 and you go to draw a card. So every single card in your soul gets converted into draws in this deck. And of course when you do stride over him, you counterblast 1, lock one of your rear guards, and then he gets an extra 5k and you lock one of your opponent's rear guards, which would be annoying if the crest doesn't unlock it. But the crest at the end of your turn is going to unlock both your cards and your opponent's cards. Your cards are going to stay and your opponent's cards are going to get bound, but of course that is still an unlock, so you can still Soul Blast 1 for the Alter Ego skill. Alright, so moving on into the main deck, I am opting to play just one extra copy of the Alter Ego Messiah. You can definitely bump this up to 2, cutting a couple cards. I think it's perfectly fine at 1. I mean, you do run the risk of damage checking it. I guess I can tell you, if you want to change some of the ratios, I'll let you know later. But for me, 1 has just been perfectly fine. You do need it to go into Exilix, which is why we are actually playing it. And then, of course, we are playing the 4 copies of the Stride Fodder Dragon, Marstage. He's actually very good in this deck. He has this other skill where if you have, or basically if he's placed on Guardian or rear guard circle, if you have a grade 4 on Van or in your hand, you activate a skill. So when you place him on rear guard, you do get to give him an extra 10k and you do soul charge, which actually very much synergizes with Messiah, because whenever you soul charge you do get to basically convert that into another draw. So you could theoretically do that, because he does get 15k shield on the rear or on the Guardian circle, but unfortunately you're never going to be on a grade 4 during your opponent's turn, so he is kind of a waste. So if you have these, you might as well call them or just use them for the other skill, which is when you discard them to ride up to either grade 3 or to stride, you do get to draw a card. So he just replaces himself. Just an overall solid card, your ideal stride target. You're always either wanting to discard this, or of course if you're going to Excellence you do want to discard that. Although I guess speaking of cards you do want to discard for stride, we are playing the 3 copies of the Prelude of Genesis. So this is the promo order card. You play with Counterblast 1 if you have the Alter Ego Crest, and then you choose a Messiah from your drop zone, call it to rearguard, and then you lock one of your opponent's rearguards. So you are actually able to get 2 locks with this card, but it is going to be costing you, of course, 2 CB, because you have to pay 1 for the stride cost, and of course you have to play another one for this. But if you do discard this card to stride, because obviously it's grade 3 and it is still in order, you can choose either your Vanguard or your Heart, and then you reduce the next counterblast cost for that card's abilities by 1 the next time you pay it. So just an overall solid card. I think in all of my previous deck profiles, people have asked, what can I put in this deck if I do not want to play Prelude of Genesis? And unfortunately, there is no good answer for you. I know this card is like hovering around like $20, and I do recommend that you pick up at least 2, but I think the optimal amount to play is actually 3. So if you really do want to play Messiah, you kind of do have to shell out for this. If you're not, you're just going to be playing like an inferior deck. I mean, there's nothing in Bronk 8 that does what this card does for you. It's just absolutely essential if you want to play the deck at all. But that being said, I guess if you don't want to play this, you should probably go for the set order build. I have a video of it on my channel. I'll try and put it in the link, or I'll link it in the video if I remember. I hope I do. But anyways, that's only your only other build. I have opted out of set order build this format, but it is definitely viable, and I'll talk a little bit about it once we get to some of the cards. But I'm definitely going to try the set order build once again once we do get into set 2 for Divine, because there's a card in there that I think kind of unlocks the potential of a lot of the strategies. And then of course for our last card, we are playing 1 copy of the Angel Ladder. So Angel Ladder is just that new Regales piece from Triple Drive. So you play it, you draw a card, you put it to your soul, which is, good for your deck. So you're basically drawing card now, drawing card end phase. And then your Vanguard gets the skill that your Vanguards get 5k for this turn, and then you get all of your rearguards cannot be chosen or put onto other than on rearguards by your opponent's card effects. So basically what that does is that prevents your opponent from retiring any of your rearguards, which if you've ever played Messiah, you know that rearguards are super important. They are combo pieces, and playing this against things like is absolutely necessary against things like Shiranui, and it's super essential against the Varga matchup, which is probably this deck's worst matchup, but it is definitely playable and definitely winnable if you do know what you're doing, and this card is definitely very essential to helping you actually beat that matchup. Alright, so moving on into the grade 2, of course we are playing the 4 copies of Arrestor Messiah, just your absolute essential card here. When he attacks, he gets 5k if you have a Messiah Vanguard on GB1, and then at the end of the battle he locks himself. Super essential because you do need to be getting cards that are locking. Probably just your best card in the deck, your best attacker. The only other way we really have to get locks during the battle phase is with Klein here. I'm just going to call him Klein. So he is a 15k attacker as well, but you do have to have a locked card on either player's board. Normally if you just like lock your Awakening Messiah, which it tends to happen, he will be at 15, so he's not that bad. But after he attacks, you retire him, check top 3 cards, put 1 as a locked card, and then the rest go to the bottom of the deck. So unfortunately, if you do see a lot of triggers off of this, you do end up with them staying at the bottom for the rest of the fight. So you do have to take that into consideration when using this card. We do have some ways of shuffling, but not a whole ton. So just always remember that when you're playing with Klein. And then of course the new card from DBZ1. It's not DBZ, it's DZB1. Of course, that is the Energy Cycler. This is basically just a better version of Habitable Zone that we were playing in the deck previously, because when he's discarded from hand to ride up, you can Counterblast 1 or EV3 and draw a card. So he basically makes your ride up free, and we don't really have any other ways of using our energy that efficiently. We just either wait till 7 or we want to draw into these and use them. You can also proc that skill when he is placed on Guardian Circle, which is super good because he lets you cycle more cards. And of course, unlike Habitable Zone, he doesn't use any soul, so you get the draw from this, and then you get a draw from Alter Ego later. He's no longer an investment. A little bit of a maybe debatable choice. I've opted to play 5 cycle cards, including the Habitable Zone. I'm just playing it at 1. Honestly, you could definitely cut this. I just have it here because I want the deck to be a little bit more consistent. But like I said, Habitable Zone is really not as vital, I guess. He doesn't have that much over this card. The only thing that Habitable Zone has over the Energy Cycler is that you can use his skill when you discard him for Stride Fodder, but that's not really that big. But if you definitely want to cut Habitable Zone, totally do it. I would still recommend playing the Energy Cyclers unless you want to go for a full super pure build. Alright, moving on into the grade 1s. I'm going to be playing 2 copies of Destiny Dealer. He is a grade 3 when you're paying cost for Stride, and then of course you can pitch him in order to actually fetch out the Alter Ego Messiah from either your deck or your drop. This is your one way to shuffle the deck, so if you put a bunch of triggers on the bottom with Klein's skill, hopefully you can draw into a Destiny Dealer so you can actually shuffle those triggers back into the deck. If you want to cut this card down to 1 and maybe play another Alter Ego instead, that is definitely totally valid. It does prevent you from, damage checking one of your Alter Egos and then being like, well, I guess I'm never going to X-Lix until I can heal it out. But I just like playing it because it's just an extra 5k shield. I just don't find it being that different. And unfortunately, as I said at the beginning, I have gone back to just playing regular old boring Messiah, and of course that begins with 3 sacrifices. In the past I have really shit on Sacrifice a lot. I've said he's kind of a bad card. Some of that still stands true, but I have kind of come around on Sacrifice just a little bit. I do think that having more than 1 sacrifice in a game is kind of L, and it sucks. Just because Sacrifice only has 1 slot, because you're always going to have Waking, Vanguard, and then your other rearguard circle. But him here boosting the 15k attackers does make a 23k column, and the fact that he locks himself means that you can unlock him and get a restanding booster. So I think that he is valid in that sense. Everything I still said about Sacrifice, about him being a bad card, he has 5k to your Vanguard, which doesn't matter. He only counter charges when you have no face-up damage. Most of the time doesn't matter. So all those things are still valid. He is definitely okay in the late game, but the only thing I'm going to give Sacrifice right now is that he is a good restanding booster. You can play him at 3 or 2. You can definitely cut him down to 2. If you wanted to play, I don't know, if you were playing like set order package, I would recommend paying him at 2 copies, because he is still an okay card even when you're playing Bulble Mine. But I guess he is still there. And then another card that I still kind of think is a bad card is, of course, 3 copies of Makani. I still think Makani is just bad because you're playing a card that does nothing. It just does nothing. Because if you think about it, so Makani's skill is when he's placed these soul charges, and then you can move into soul to counter Makani from soul, but of course you're just putting him to soul to get a card. So this card, all it does is soul charge. It gets you 2 soul. So 2 soul from 1 card. Technically, that's not bad. The problems I have with it, soul charging is getting a card out of your deck, and deck out is a bit of a problem. And then, what are you using that soul for? You're not using it for offense. You're not converting it into just raw numbers. You're just converting it into advantage for yourself during the end phase. So this card is basically just here to give you 2 extra draws during the end phase, which, yes, I will concede that does definitely that makes you live, that makes you go on to later turns, and of course the longer that Messiah lasts, the stronger its numbers are going to become. But that doesn't really, defeat the argument that this card doesn't do anything. I have had a few instances in which I wish I had him. I mean, most of the time, I feel like you only need 1 or 2 extra soul, because you do blast through all your soul probably by your second stride turn. If you do want to play for Makani, I would recommend just maybe cutting his Sacrifice. If you're playing vanilla build, you definitely do have to play Makani. But like I said, I still just don't like him. Even playing him, he is kind of a necessary evil. But yeah, if you want to play set order build, I definitely take out the Makanis, cut this down to 2. Maybe you can even take out the Destiny Dealers and just play a second Alter Ego Messiah. You'd have to cut the Habitable Zone. You'd have to find some other places to make cuts for the set orders and the bulb mines, because it is a 7-card investment. Maybe you could even cut down sacrifice to like 1, because you only need 1 sacrifice in order to like use it efficiently. And then bulb mines doing his place anyway. So yeah, honestly, like if you want to play set order package, maybe like these 7 cards you can cut, and then maybe switch this for an alter ego Messiah. And probably, or you could probably just like take out the habitable zone, because habitable zone isn't really going to do anything for you. But yeah, I guess for the last couple of grade 1s, of course, it's just like PGs and Elementaria. Still kind of necessary. We still have those Stride deck sets around, and some grade 4 decks are starting to pop up, like Magnolia. Anyways. Alright, and so of course, just finishing off with the trigger lineup, we do of course have the 4 Soul Draws. Technically not really that necessary. Sometimes you do call them off Klein, so it is, I guess, nice to be able to, like, you know, get an extra soul. Doesn't really come up that much, so if you want to not buy these, you could totally just get away with playing vanilla crits. Of course, speaking of that, we are playing the full 8 crit. This is a very offensive oriented deck, and you already draw a ton. You don't want to deck out, so of course we are playing the 3 front triggers as our other trigger of choice, and then of course playing the 4 heal, just playing 4 vanilla heals. I think I say this every video, but whatever you want, whatever your meta is currently, there's definitely an argument for restanding against Varga, restanding heals, that is, counter stand heals against Varga, but you know, it's not really that necessary. And then of course your auto win button, of course you do want to be playing that. Then of course your G-Zone, technically I guess is part of the deck profile. You just got the 4 Amnesty, the 4 Exilix. Just like, you might as well max out on everything, just because, you know, just play whatever you have. Alright, so as usual, we're just going to go ahead and end it off with a little bit of a test hand. So we've got a pretty decent opener here. Probably just going to get rid of the 2 triggers. We've got the Cycler for discard, and of course going to be cycling. And then of course we do have the Makani, which, like I said, I don't really like. But he is going to be there to give us some early game, which I guess is one kind of benefit of him. He does serve a little bit of a purpose in the deck, just not, you know, a good one in my opinion. Anyways, of course, we are going to be proxying going second, because we do want to get that extra draw, and going second is always the best for Stride deck sets. So I'm going to go ahead and draw for turn. Discarding our Gun Cycler, running into the grade 2, getting both the Energy Crest and the Alter Ego Messiah Crest. And then of course, since we're going second, we are going to be energy charging 3 as well. And then of course that can proc this, which is going to allow us to EB3 and draw a card. Going second is going to allow us to draw a card, and then gaining the crest is going to allow us to draw a card. So we're going to draw a total of 3 cards, just for riding up to grade 1. So, of course, we can swing, but what I think I'm actually going to do here is go ahead and call the Makani out, use his skill 2 Soul Charge, and then we're just going to boost him, so kind of guaranteeing our attack hits, drive checking into a critical trigger, giving all the effects to the Vanguard. Of course, our opponent is going to be attacking at us now, probably at least 1 damage. We're just going to take that, go ahead and stand and draw. Start of our energy, at our start of our energy phase, our energy charge 3. We did unfortunately draw it to OT, which that's whatever. Once again, you have a good discard target here, being of course that energy cycler, running into the waking, EB3, draw another card. Unfortunately draw into a heal, so a little unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. We're just gonna go ahead and continue to put on the pressure. 18 at the Vanguard, drive checking into nothing there. We're gonna have our opponent go, they're gonna attack us probably, and then we can guard another attack. And now we are finally ready to stride, assuming they did ride up to grade 3. So now of course we are going to discard our stride fodder in order to ride into the alter ego. We're going to use his skill to draw another card, and then of course we do have to pay the cost for stride, so we're going to go ahead and pay it with another one, and that is going to allow us to stride into the Exilix Messiah. So now we have 2 skills that proc here. We've got the Awaking as well as this, so we're going to go ahead and draw a card, use the Awaking to pop itself out of Soul, and then of course we do Soul Charge 1 more card. Hopefully we're not in the Varga matchup, otherwise, you know, that card is very essential. And of course, Strike skill, Counterblast 1, lock the Awakening Messiah, and then lock one of our opponent's rear guards. We might as well deck thin at this point, discarding the Destiny Dealer in order to search out our 1 copy of the Alter Ego Messiah, and that is also going to ensure that we can't, damage check it, so it is always going to be in circulation if we do ever see that second Destiny Dealer. Now, of course, as you did see in my hand, I do have the optimal board being those double arresters. The only thing that could make this a little bit better is if we did have a copy of the, what's his name, Sacrifice, because we would be able to actually even reborn it using this, but of course we don't, so we're just going to go for a little bit of a lukewarm turn here, calling out our rear guards. I think we can go ahead and put Makani in the soul, because obviously our Vanguard is not going to be needing any sort of extra power here, and we are actually technically at 3 energy. I did almost forget there. So we are going to, of course, just gonna be swing at the Vanguard for 15, not really a big number, swing the other one at a 15. I'm gonna go ahead and move this up, locks itself, and then we're gonna swing the Exlix using its skill, Counterblasting 1, unlocking a total of 3 cards, and then give an extra 15k power probably to this one. We do also flip, so we have an extra 5k to our entire front row. Awakening is going to give an extra 10k to the Arrestor Messiah. So this is at 20 plus 15, that is 35. Vanguard is at 28 plus an extra 5k from the Stride skill, don't forget that, and then another 5k. That's going to be a total of 38 at the Vanguard with a triple drive. First, second, third, there's the Sacrifice that we were hoping for. And then, of course, we're going to swing, I think this one is at 20, 30. And then, of course, this one is going to be at 35. So that is going to, of course, they're going to lock themselves at the end of the turn. We're going to go ahead and destride. These cards are going to unlock. Our opponent's card is going to unlock. We can Soul Blast 3 to draw 3 cards. And then, of course, we still do have the Energy Cycler. So, assuming our opponent attacks, we can even just guard like this. Energy Blast 3, draw another card. There's kind of no way that we're dying here. The only thing we want to do, we want to take at least 1 damage here, so that when we go into our next turn, we can go ahead and stand and draw. Theoretically, you could go for an Exlix here, or you could wait depending on the situation. We've been putting on a lot of offensive pressure, so maybe our opponent is already ready to be Exlixed. You probably only want to do that when they're at like 3 or 4, or 4 or 5, just to like ensure. So we can go ahead and call and call. Honestly, you probably don't even need to soul charge off the Makani. Let's see, we're going to be unlocking 4 cards, so I guess we might as well soul charge. Soul charging yet another PG. Wow. What are the odds of that? We're just going to put Makani in there, just to ensure we can draw 4 cards during the end phase with this Sacrifice there, of course. If one of these had died or you'd intercepted, we did have this in order to revive it. So this is just like, it's just an extension of these cards, so it is just pretty good in that sense. Anyway, striding, Counterblast 1, locking an opponent's rear guard. We're going to go ahead and swing at the Vanguard. It is going to be locking itself. That's going to be just a 25. So we're going to swing this one, 33. These ones are going to lock, and then since we do have no face-up damage, we are going to get countercharged. We're going to go ahead and Counterblast 1, unlock everything. Front row gets plus 10k. He gets a crit. And then, of course, yeah, just that. Big number with crit. First, second, third. And then, of course, you just continue with your attacks. Lock, counter charge with the Sacrifice and phase. Unlock 4 cards. Soul Blast 4 cards. Draw 4 cards. So, like I said, you do definitely maintain a lot of cards. With this build, you just kind of have to know your matchups. Like if you're playing against Varga, these things are not going to be sticking around, so you got to make sure that you always have, locking attackers. Anyways, that's going to do it for the Messiah deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.